Hey everyone, before we get started with the podcast today, I wanted to tell you about a little addiction that I have, which is putting on mastermind events for marketers all over the world. In 2022, we did it in Victoria, British Columbia, down at the marina on the coast, where we brought together about 50 amazing marketers and entrepreneurs together for 2 days of masterminding and elite experiences and all sorts of fun stuff. We went to Las Vegas last year and had an absolutely epic event. And this year, September 18th and 19th, we're returning to our roots and inviting D2C listeners from around the world to join us in Victoria, British Columbia for 2 days of an absolutely incredible experience. We're bringing together some speakers from the past and a lot of new ones, including Andrew Wilkinson, international business icon from Tiny. We've got Nick Shackelford to tell us all about his Breeze story, as well as Kevin Gould from Glamnetic about his $50 million year and what's come after that, as well as Brock Mamoser from Frost Buddy. Really excited about his talk on TikTok Shops and how he's grown to a $30 million brand. This event is all about helping brand owners in our audiences get from where they are today to where they want to go, whether that's from 7 figures to 8 figures to 9 or beyond. We're going to have the people at this event. We're going to have the content at this event. And we're going to have the experiences at this event that lock in these concepts for you. Best case in point is one of our speakers, Drew Archiolo, who's coming from Victory Gear, who came to our event in 2022, took a notebook full of notes on all of the talks and all the connections that he made, went out and turned Victory Gear from a middling, unprofitable 7-figure brand to a profitable $20 million powerhouse just 2 years later. Obviously, there were a lot of reasons for that, but he definitely credits what he learned at C-Suite Mastermind as a big part of this. So if you want to replicate that experience, you can go to events.directtoconsumer.co. We only have 50 seats available. We have it's about halfway filled already just from being 2 weeks of being launched. So don't wait. This is a major FOMO event. You don't want to miss out on it. We're going to do a few previews in the coming weeks of some of the speakers. We're not going to give away too much because we want you to come to Victoria and have this amazing experience with us. I hope you can make it, and on with the show.
Go to Dashboards in Klaviyo. Go to Overview, add a card called Email Deliverability by Domain. Look at your Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, and Outlook. I've seen cases where it says the Hotmail open rate is like 85%. The Hotmail open rate is not 85%. And also the Gmail open rate is like 32%. So, okay, well, what's happening is you've got all of these opens from bad reporting for whatever's going on right now and hasn't been fixed. So actually what you're seeing is the correctly reporting domains are showing that you've got an inboxing problem. But at the aggregate level, it looks normal. So go in there and ask yourself, do these 4 individually look normal? And if that looks not normal, you better start working on that.
Wondering what 100 influencers talking about your brand could do to your bottom line? Meet Sorrel, the influencer platform that brands are using to get a 5 to 7x median ROAS on their influencer spend. As ad costs rise, it's time to build robust marketing modes with authentic creator partnerships. Sorrel automates and simplifies the entire process from finding influencers to contacting them, shipping products, and turning them into affiliates. Sorrel's G2 rating is 4.8, and brands are loving their customer happiness team that will help you set things up from scratch even if you have no experience with influencers. Ready for a simpler, more effective approach to influencer marketing? D2C podcast listeners enjoy a special offer. Double the trial length for free at no annual commitment. Start today at getsorrel.com/champions/DTC-newsletter. It's all killer, no filler. I'm Eric, and I'm back with Jordan Gordon here on the D2C podcast, head of retention over at Pilothouse. What's new in the retention world there, Jordan?
Well, I wanted to talk today about automations, just because it's just a huge part of what we do. And the big thing about automations is they're important, but they're not urgent. So everyone puts all their time into campaigns because campaigns are urgent. And then automations become this kind of Frankenstein beast, right? And so a lot of people come and we have to kind of fix the Frankenstein. So I thought I'd just give some ideas here for people who are facing that.
I love it. Back it up for any noobs in the audience who are coming to this. I know we do a lot of inside baseball on All Killer No Filler. We're talking about email marketing, and we're talking about the automations that you set up that are triggered when users take certain actions on your website, whether they buy something, whether they add to cart. What's your high level explanation of automations?
Yeah, good call. So campaigns they send to people based on like lack of activity. Someone doesn't do anything, they just get campaigns. You just get campaigns, they end up in your inbox. And they're a big part of a company's email revenue. It's nice to see it 50-50 campaigns, automations. And campaigns are just the emails we all get, usually launches and things like that. And then there's automations, which trigger off of activity. I visited the site, I looked at a product, I subscribed, I purchased. I mean, technically lack of activity for a reactivation, like a win back, but there was an activity at some point. And so it's just that, there's a different time frame for that one. So they're all triggered off of activities. And the nice thing about that is what people did. You know what products they clicked on. The machine learning knows what products they clicked on, right? There's all kinds of neat ways that we can speak to people where they are. And broadly, I split it up in my mind into two different categories. Lifecycle, which would be everything from the pop-up to if they're suppressed for inactivity. And that would be kind of welcome, post-purchase reactivation. And then funnel support, which is site abandon, browser abandon, cart abandon, checkout abandon. Technically, I consider price drop and back in stock of conversion funnel support too. So all those kinds of things aren't based on time frame. Lifecycle's time frame. How long have they been with the brand? How long since they did something? Conversion funnel support is how far down the funnel did they get? So those are the things that we automate for our team, and it's table stakes out there.
Nice.
Yeah. So what I want to convey here, this is what I'm seeing. I'll give you an example. Someone shows up with 85 automated emails, and it's over 20 different flows. Some of them have grids like this, right? Some of them, there's just one email, and you'd think, well, why does this flow not have like 3? And it's been put together. It's a series of good ideas, and then you just find somewhere to plug it in, right? You maybe segmented something by product and changed your catalog, and it doesn't even make sense for your catalog anymore. And it's just a mess, and you can't even imagine where to start. How do I even start figuring this out? So this talk is how we start figuring it out.
And when it's a morass, a morass is the term that I think of, like a tangly swamp in a way. If you've got all these different automations going, you're going to lack a lot of efficiency. It's going to be kind of, your results could be bunged up potentially in the morass.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One, you could have, something could be going wrong. For sure, you could have a bad experience in there, a bad customer experience. But even if the experience is good, you've also got this thing called a ball and chain. So if you have a nice, tight, maybe I've said this before in the podcast, I'll say it again. If you have a nice, tight series of automations, a set number of flows, they all make sense, not too many messages, then you're able to pivot your email automations quickly and say, let's say you do a little pivot in your business. Hey, we're launching this, or we're selling this now, got some different funding, so we got to focus on something different. If you can change your emails quickly, what happens is they start pulling you in the direction that you're going. Like, the customers are getting the new emails, and they're getting the idea, and the emails just kind of tug you in the direction that you want to go. And if you have this morass that you've discussed, and it's 85 messages, that's actually a ball and chain where you've got to update. There's always some wrong email going out, and it's saying the wrong thing, and it's confusing the customers. It's keeping us in our old way of doing business. And then we go, let's just go ship that one that way because they asked for it. And it's just holding you back. So that's the ball and chain. So that's the two ways. One, you could have a bad experience. Even if you don't have a bad experience, you definitely have a ball and chain. So I've got some points here. One, extra messages you have. Let's say you've got a lot of messages. Let's think through for a second how many messages we should have. Every extra message, it has to, obviously, let's say you segment something by product, and you have a special product segmented version of a message. Okay, it has to incrementally make more than the general one, of course, but it has to incrementally make more, not just an extra penny. It has to pay for the technical debt, right? And that technical debt is a function of how hard it is to update that message. So I'll quickly say, just as an aside, this is a reason if you're small, if you're starting out, to do HTML or HTML hybrid automated messages. So there's maybe a nice text over image in the hero, but then the rest of it's all live text and simple images, so that it just decreases the technical debt. It's like getting a low debt loan. And then the other thing is the extra message, it must be measurable against a general version. So if you just create an extra message and start sending it out, and you don't actually have the general version, the non-segmented version, and you can't measure that the other message is giving you benefit. I mean, things that aren't measured don't happen. If you can't measure that incremental benefit, just assume there is no incremental benefit. And you have to actually prove it. So those are two very important points here. So step one, if you've got 1 million billion messages, first thing you do, go in Klaviyo to your reports, to your custom reports, and pull a flow report, pull revenue, which would mean go to placed order, add an extra metric, placed order, value, and download the revenue of individual flows, individual flow messages. So segment it by message. So group by flow message. You'll see that. And look at the top 20 versus the million billion. And you will find, most certainly, that the top 20 messages are like 90% of the Klaviyo attributed revenue and clicks. So that 20 messages is where all the action is, because all the action is immediately after someone shows intent. This is what you're going to find. So the first thing we're going to do to sort this thing out, look at those top 20, right? And we're going to build a side life cycle. This sounds, it's a little bit of work, but what we're going to do is we're going to swap out the engine while the car is running, because we can't just turn your whole thing off, right?
Because you got to prove that it's incrementally better.
That's right. So we're going to create a side life cycle, and it's going to be, this is what I recommend: site abandoned 2 messages, browse abandoned 3 messages, cart and checkout 4 messages, and then 1 funnel flusher. I don't know who originally said that to you. I'm not able to give that person credit. I mean, lots of people put offers in funnel support, but the idea of waiting the 30 days was actually like really good. So we kind of just adopted that idea. I'd love to give credit to whoever.
It might have been Joseph Siegel from Feastables. I'll have to think about who that was who gave us the funnel flusher.
Just waiting that 30 days would just changed the way that we approach our funnel support. So it was a great idea, whoever it was out there. So that's 10 messages for funnel support, 4 welcome emails, 2 post-purchase, only 2 post-purchase. Post-purchase is made to make someone a repeat buyer after 30 days. And so the first post-purchase should be like, thanks for buying. Here's 20% off another category, right? So 4 welcome, 2 post-purchase, 2 reactivation. You're going to just repeat those 2 over and over again for inactives. So it just goes every month, a different one. And then 2 extra that you can put wherever you want. That's 20 messages. 10 funnel support, 4 welcome, 2 post-purchase, 2 reactivation, 2 extra. There's your 20. 2 extra, you do whatever you want with them. And that is over basically 7 flows: welcome, post-purchase, reactivation, site, browse, cart, checkout. That's a super tight, and if you just take your best messages and put them in there, assuming that you have a general version, assuming that you can make the experience work, you launch those, and here's the thing. You go into your existing, what would you call it? Morass? You go into
your morass.
And you this is what you put there in the beginning of each flow to control who goes in. Email address does not start with A. Email address does not start with B. Email address does not start with C. Email address does not start with D. Email address does not start with E. So A through E don't go in. And you go to the 7 that we created. Email starts with A, or email starts with B, or email starts with C, or email starts with D, or email starts with E. Now, every single address that comes in is going to go into one of these experiences, and you are going to be able to look at these 2 experiences separately. And what we're looking for is any reason to say, let's just turn the morass off. Because it looks like we've got something here that's 20 messages that's doing the same amount of work, right? Final point here. How would you decide if it's working better? Well, this is very easy, right in Klaviyo, I mean, assuming you're using Klaviyo, obviously this theory works with other systems, but specifically on Klaviyo, if you go to your flows, you see revenue per recipient and revenue, every single flow. It's just right there. And if you remember from our algebra, revenue divided by revenue per recipient, or if you do the thing revenue times recipient over revenue, right? Think back to I actually had to sit in front of a quadratic equation.
Oh,
and
wow.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
Old quadro.
I sat down to do it for something. I was like, oh, this is a quadratic. Couldn't do it. It's been like so long. And that computers do it all. But think back to your algebra. Revenue divided by revenue per recipient is recipients. So if you just kind of put this into a spreadsheet, one column there, it's just one column calculation, you have the revenue per recipient, which is efficiency, the revenue, which is magnitude, and the recipients. Now, if what we did was A through E, which is it's going to be about 20-25% of the audience. It's just the way it works out. So revenue per recipient is an important metric. That's the efficiency, right? But what you can also do is you can look at the recipients going through and see what portion of people are going into each kind of flow, into each experience. Then you can normalize the revenue and say, okay, well, it looks like 20% of people are going through, this experience, this new experience, and the revenue is more than 20% in total. Okay, well, this thing's actually pushing more revenue, right? That is one way to just walk away from a complete mess. And then you just start building on your new framework.
And how do you avoid creep? How do you avoid creating a new morass, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it does just generally happen over time.
Yeah.
People just have good ideas. It's like...
What would be some things that people would add beyond those 20? Would it just be adding more emails to the same automations? Or would it be creating new automations?
So I just listed 7. Welcome post-purchase reactivation, which maybe you call win back, right? Site browse, cart checkout. And then I said, hey, maybe you want to do price drop or back in stock or something like that with the extras. Perfect world, you try to get it all to work in those 7. Now, let's say you say, okay, we are going to launch a product-specific experience now. So let's say you get that running. That's Lifecycle. It's all general. So now you have your benchmarks. You say, okay, we're going to launch a product-specific experience. There's 2 approaches. One, you go right into your browse abandon and you branch off and you have different branches based on the category someone clicked on. Or you have a separate version. The problem with the separate version is you got to control who's going in and make sure people don't get both. So that's not what you want to do. So you do it all within the same flow. So that framework I just described to you, that's the framework. And then you just have branches in there. But generally, when you do that, when you branch that off, you're going to look right in the flow, it's right in there, placed order rate. So you're going to branch it off and here's what you do. You create, don't just waterfall, hey, I'm going to create 10 new messages. Create 1 new message, branch it off, watch it, and say, does it, when we went to product specific, does it have an improved placed order rate versus the general one? If it does, okay, go ahead and build another one, right? Because you just proven against the benchmark, against the general one, that you've got some improvement. And just back to the original question, how do you stop it from becoming a larger morass? I mean, this is a first principles thing, right? First, prove that this new thing outperforms against a general benchmark, which means you need the general benchmark. We just described how to do it. And then 2, prove to yourself that it's driving enough revenue to justify creating the message, managing the message over time, reporting on the message. So, the new message must be creating hundreds of dollars at least, right? If it's creating like an extra $20, and you can see that because I've just showed you how you can. I've just told you how you can go right. You put it right in the flow, and you just look at the 2 emails. If it's not creating hundreds of dollars more, then don't do it. And that's how you get that rigor. And if you do that, you're going to find that you don't go over 30 messages. It's just very hard to do. Maybe if you've got some loyalty stuff that's different.
I just tracked it down. Of course, it was the inimitable Sean Frank, who came up with who told us about the funnel draining, the product specific funnel drains after 30 days. But in case someone, you can go find that podcast I did with Sean, or maybe you remember us talking about it since. But if you could just walk people through that, because you've sort of articulated it as a good idea that you put into practice, and just so that people really understand what that is, and maybe they'll put it into practice too.
Yeah. So we're doing, obviously we're doing a simplified version because, we, our focus is to take people and just build them a really efficient, well-running email channel. And so it's everything that we do, we try to keep the execution as tight as possible. So this is a simplified, based on what you discussed from Sean. Sean's is product specific, where, okay, they went into this category. Let's say you sell shoes, hats, and shirts. So, okay, they went into shirts. And you measured that they went into the shirt funnel. They clicked on a product that said shirt in the funnel, or was from the category. And then if they don't purchase in 30 days, they get a coupon for a shirt. And the nice thing about that is, one, they have to wait. You give 30 days for someone to naturally make the purchase by themselves. So you're not just giving the product away. And two, you're making them spend on what they showed interest in. And coupons are supposed to should reward people for doing things that we think are good. So that's the problem with coupons and campaigns, is you're actually rewarding people for no activity. You want to reward people for activity. Hey, you came to the site, you looked at some stuff, right? Maybe it wasn't right for you, but hey, maybe that shirt is right for you, 20% off. So a month later, you get them to spend the money, and the coupon is only on that product. So they can't just go load up their basket, buy all your essentials, buy all this, once someone's cleared out your essentials, they're done with your catalog. No, they got to spend it on that product line. So that's my understanding of the funnel flusher that you brought to us. And we've simplified this by just not making it category specific. If they enter the funnel and they don't purchase in 30 days, that purchase is probably not going to happen. So we just give them a discount. It wouldn't be as deep because it's not product specific. So 10 or 15 rather than 20, whatever, just to get them over the finish line and make that purchase happen. And and when we do it that way, it's much easier for us to automate it and just have it just a natural part of someone's email system.
Very cool. I'm excited for the coming weeks with you, where I'm sure we'll probably start talking a little bit about Q4 prep and what brands are doing to kind of build their lists and test all their promos during this period. If anyone's out there thinking that their email team, or maybe they're doing it in-house, isn't stacking up right now, and they would want to talk with someone like you about an audit or whatever, like, what do you recommend in terms of, like, it seems like now would be the time to be making decisions around your email program heading into Q4 so that you can kind of hit it running. Do you agree with that, or what would you say?
Well, first, let me say that we do full management, and we also very happily work with existing teams. Our team, we have really kind of flexible and almost kind of a la carte kind of contracts where we can come in and we can just work on your inbox and just work on some automations. So, anybody out there who, has a team, don't consider that, because we've got this team, Pilothouse's email and retention team's not right for them. We can step in and we can help. But right now is the time. I was just talking with someone who came in and is a new client, and in the kind of sales process, my contact was saying, well, what can we start with? Can we do the flows now and do kind of work on some inboxing later, because they're not completely in the inbox? And you want to give a few months to really, if you've got an inboxing problem, to really have that fixed. And you want to give a few months to have a good email system built. So if you want to do Q4 starts in October, that's actually 3 months away. So basically, if you want anything you want to get done, you have to be doing it actively right now. What I just described, that, let's say you're going in and you're going, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my flows. I just gave you a bit of a Band-Aid pull where in a month or two, you could have it figured out and you could have abandoned the morass and have a tight email system. I just gave that. Or decide you're not going to abandon it and just change the letters and you're done, right? So your old system is exactly the way it was and you can always go back to it anytime. So that should be happening now if you have that problem. Also, I thought about mentioning this, if we go back to inboxing for a second, which that's almost every call right now.
You can never talk about it enough.
Oh, God. So everybody out there, if you want to, here's something to do. because I'm just doing this live in audit calls. So I'll just give it to you right now. You can go look. Go to dashboards in Klaviyo. Go to dashboards, and if you're not using Klaviyo, there's a way to do this, I'm sure. Go to dashboards, go to overview, and then add a card, and it's called email deliverability by ISP or email deliverability by domain. And you can look at your Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, and Outlook domains. And what I'm seeing a lot of, and we did discuss this, but you can see it for yourself, is I've seen cases where it says the Hotmail open rate is like 85%. The Hotmail open rate is not 85%. There's just something wrong, right? And also the Gmail open rate is like 32%. So, okay, well, what's happening is you've got all of these opens from bad reporting for whatever's going on right now and hasn't been fixed. And I'm sure Klaviyo's working on fixing it. It's papering over. And so you've got this benchmark that looks okay. The open rates look okay. But when you look under the hood, it's actually chaos. And you can also go on that same report, look at click rates. I've seen cases where the bot click stuff, one of those domains has a click rate of like 10.5%. It's not 10.5%. And another one is a click rate of 0.5%. So actually what you're seeing is the correctly reporting domains are showing that you've got an inboxing problem. But at the aggregate level, it looks normal. Also, look at your bounces and look at your spams. Gmail spam will always be 0%. But look at the Yahoo spam. If it's above 0.1, you're probably in trouble. So go in there and just look at it and ask yourself, do these 4 individually look normal? And normal would be for a certain open rate above 35%. Below 35%, that is not normal. Click rate below 1%, that is not normal, right? Bounce rate, these days I wouldn't want your bounce rate to be above 0.25 maybe, right? If it's above that, that's an indication of what's coming in the top of the funnel. So go in there, check that now. And if that looks like it's not normal, you'd better start working on that right now. I think we did some episodes. You can go back and listen to some previous episodes of ours about what to do with inboxing.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. Lots of value as usual on this podcast. I hope some of our listeners can implement the automation rehab program that you have laid out here, and definitely run that report, because you just can't, you're flying blind. If you're looking at it, you're like, oh, my click-through rate's great, my open rate's great, but it could just be those individual reporting issues by the platform that are throwing you off. So make sure you look in the cold, hard light of day and clean up that morass. Yeah.
And then you're right. When we do get back together, we'll talk about kind of what we're doing for Q4, some strategies. Maybe some of it's the same every year. So maybe audience out there, if you've been listening for a couple of years, you might hear a couple of things again. But there's always some new things based on what's going on, so it never hurts to get back in the zone.
I'm just looking at it. I think we're coming up on episode. What are we at? We're almost at 800,000 listens, which is awesome. We're going to hit 1 million this year. Yeah, but we're going to be coming up on episode 500. So in those 500, we probably have repeated ourselves 1 or 2 times. So if you catch us repeating ourselves, you can email me at eric@directtoconsumer.co and I'll send you a pair of socks just to see if you're listening out there. We have D2C socks. If you catch a repeat, go ahead. Make my day. We'll send you socks.
Making Black Friday work, there's just some things you do for email. Hey, we're going to go put the offer in as a banner in the conversion models. But all this list of things, it's like there's a really tight checklist. Again, our focus is really tight checklist, really tight implementation, so that you can just kind of go from 0 to 60 in a very efficient way. So that's what I'll always come back with here.
I love that. Let's produce that checklist and launch it as like a lead gen campaign or something like that to our audience, because I think people would get a lot out of that.
Okay, next episode, BFCM email and retention checklist.
Let's go. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the D2C newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilothouse's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.